Hey there, my name is Megan and welcome to my channel or welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a book review for Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. But before we go ahead and get on into the review, if you are not already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, as well as the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I post new bookish content. I post new videos every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday, and sometimes other days throughout the week. Also, you can check down in the description box below for links to my Amazon shop, where I list all of the books that I talk about on my channel that I really enjoyed, and my Patreon, where you can be entered into winning book giveaways from me. Red Country is the third book in the Levelers trilogy by Joe Abercrombie, which is an adult grimdark fantasy. And each of these books in the Levelers series are independent stories that take place in his first law world with new characters. However, there are cameos of characters from other books in each of these stories. So I know a lot of people ask if they can read these books having not read the First Law trilogy, and I would say you can, but I wouldn't, because I feel like you need some context of the world. And then when we get introduced to characters that have already made an appearance in previous books, you'll have a better understanding of why this character's appearance is important, why their role in the story is important, especially in Red Country. And I just feel like if you don't have that knowledge, it'll take away some of your enjoyment of the story. The way that I structure my review is I'm going to talk about what the story's about, as well as some things that I liked and didn't like, and then I'm going to give the book an overall rating and let you know if I think you should read it. In Red Country, we are following a new character named Shy South, and she comes from like a really small podunk type town, and she's known for being a really good bargainer. Like, she's really good at negotiations. And her mom is deceased, and she lives with her stepfather and her younger brother and sister, who I think are ages 7 and 10. And Shy is like a no-nonsense, hardworking type woman. And I don't know her exact age. When I first started this book, I thought she was about 16. But as the story went on, I'm like, oh, she's definitely not that young. So she's probably like 20, maybe early 20s. One day, Shy returns home and finds that someone has ransacked her house and stolen her brother and sister. So she has to go on this quest to this other side of the continent, basically, to find her brother and sister. And her stepfather, whose name is Lamb, follows along with her. And what we learn as the story goes on is Lamb is not really who he has made himself out to be, and he actually has a very dark and bloody backstory. We are also following the plot of the Union Army, and they have employed this mercenary named Casca, and Casca is a character from previous books, and he's just not a very upstanding guy. I mean, what mercenary leader is? And they have employed his group of mercenaries to help them root out rebels that are trying to riot against the Union. So you have these two plot lines. Eventually they do converge, and there is a character named Temple who is in both plot lines because he was originally part of Casca's group of mercenaries. He was a lawyer for them, and then he deserts and ends up getting involved with Shy and Lamb, her stepfather. And the way that they do this is that this book, the setting of it, in my opinion, has a very Wild West type feel. So if you think back to, at least from what I know of the history of the United States, the gold rush, and there is like a gold rush type event going on in this book, and you have all these people that are packing up and leaving their lives behind on the East Coast, traveling across the Great Plains to the West Coast to find gold. And then obviously, you know, you have settlements that pop up here and there that just don't make it to the West Coast. So that's kind of what's going on in this book. So it looks like there's a lot of inspiration from that part of American history, and there definitely is a Wild West feel. And the way that Lamb and Shy ends up getting to the other side of the country is they partner with a guy named Sweet, who is leading what they call a fellowship, so a group of people that are going to this part of the country so they can pan for gold. And they have this big group of people, and then there's a lot of interesting characters in this group of people. Lamb and Shy, you know, develop strong relationships with some of these people, and there are people in this group that directly tie into what Casca and his group of mercenaries are hunting. Now I'm going to talk about the things that I liked. So kind of piggybacking off of the plot, I really liked how there were two plot lines and how Abercrombie was able to weave them together. To be completely honest, when I first started reading about, you know, Casca's plot line and this group of mercenaries that was hunting out rebels, I'm like, how the heck does this relate at all to Shy's story, unless it's rebels that took her brother and sister, but they had no reason to, or that wouldn't make sense. So I really liked how Abercrombie wrote this plot. Abercrombie, in my opinion, is not the best at writing intricate plots. He is known for being incredibly character driven and developing these awesome characters. And I felt like he did an excellent job doing both of those things in this book. So we had some brand new characters, such as Shy and Temple and Sweet, that were awesomely developed. And these characters are not always likable characters. Abercrombie is great at writing morally gray characters, and they're very real because they make mistakes and at the same time are capable of, doing good, righteous things. And I just love that about him. So he did an excellent job writing characters and did an excellent job writing the plot. The plot for me was super, super engaging because I read The Heroes a couple of months ago, and one of my gripes with that is that I felt like I was just reading about the everyday lives of these soldiers. There wasn't really a strong plot. Complete opposite for Red Country. There was a great balance between the plot and the characterization, in my opinion. I also really liked the Wild West feel. To be completely honest, I'm not a Western reader. I don't really enjoy Western movies or any of that, but Abercrombie was able to create this setting that included those elements while making it his own. And I didn't feel like I was in a Western, but those elements were there and they weren't overwhelming to the point where I was put off by it. So if you like Westerns, this would be for you. If you don't like Westerns, I think this would be for you. There is also a slightly open-ended ending with this book, not with regards to Shy, one of the main characters, but with regards to her stepfather. And like I said, the stepfather has a past. We learn about him as the story goes on, even though me, having read all of the other books, I already knew, what was going on with this character because he's not a new character from in the story. He's been in previous books just by a different name. So Abercrombie kind of left the ending of this book open to continue the story. And I have no idea if his other trilogy, I think Age of Madness is the first book, follows this character. I don't know anything about it, honestly. But I really liked the open-ended ending and the ending in general. We had a bittersweet ending, which I like. I don't like when things work out perfectly for characters, but I don't like when characters, die and have no ending. So Abercrombie did a good job, meeting right in the middle, that bittersweet ending. And then I'm curious to see if he continues with Lamb's story. And there was a good twist that I really liked in this story regarding the rebels that the Union mercenaries were seeking. So like I said at the beginning of the book, it's established that there is someone who is stirring up dissension and rebellion, and the Union comes in to find out who it is and kind of quell that, make sure it doesn't lead to an uprising. And while, in my personal opinion, that wasn't a huge part of the plot, it might play into other books that he decides to write. There was a twist at the end about who the rebel leader was that I honestly didn't see coming, and I thought it was well done. We also get a touch of backstory and lore of this world that ties into why Shy's brother and sister were kidnapped, and that is explained more, I would say, in the final third to quarter of the book. And I'm going to use that to transition into my dislikes. So we learn that there is a group of people that live in the far country in the mountains, and they are known as dragon people. And I'm not going to go into spoilers, but we are introduced to them, and we do get a little bit of insight into their world, into their culture. But compared to like the rest of the content of the book, it's really not a lot. And these people do play a part in the plot, but in my opinion, they weren't given that much time. And then it was explained why the children were kidnapped, so that was definitely explained. And we do get short perspectives from Ro, who is Shy's sister, as she is being kidnapped and her experiences. But like I said, compared to the rest of the book, it's not a big chunk of it. And then we do learn that these dragon people are serving this dragon. And Abercrombie doesn't go into huge explanation of this dragon because it's described as a dragon, but it's not a dragon. And I don't want to go into spoilers, but it's a dragon, but it's not a dragon. And it kind of raised questions about this world to me. And I actually looked up on the internet, like some theories about this world and maybe a further explanation. Maybe I was just not connecting things that he had mentioned in the First Law trilogy to this book. And I don't know, it's been so long since I've read it, I don't know. But he talks about how these people worship this dragon that's not a dragon. And then he just left it at that and included this lore and this backstory and this people, and then just kind of just left it. You know, that was that. So while it did explain certain things about the plot, especially revolving Shai's brother and sister, it did leave a little bit of wanting for me personally to know more and have more of an explanation. All in all, I really enjoyed Red Country. I can honestly say it was one of my most enjoyable books that I've read this year. I got through it in just a couple days, which is really unusual for me with an Abercrombie book, and I ended up giving it 4.5 out of 5 stars. All right, you guys, let me know in the comments if you have read Red Country and what you thought of it, and I will see y'all in another video soon. Goodbye!